太监大干。 See you next year.
Goodbye.
Hi, hello, my name is Gilles, but my new nickname that was just given to me by my team leader is Akit. I've been participating to the Nine Emperor Gods Festival with the Long Nan Dian Temple for 7 years. And I've been very interested in trying to understand where is the story of the festival coming from. We know that there are the nine emperor gods, the stars of the northern Dipper, the sons of Tumu. And then on the other hand, there are stories going on about fishermen who are some sort of Robin Hood of the sea, helping the poor and who were beheaded, and their heads came ashore on the beach, and they became the nine emperor gods. So there are those very different versions of the same deities that people believe in one way or another. And the big question is, how did that whole story took shape? Another big question is that it would appear that in fact the Nine Emperor Gods Festival is mostly restricted to peninsular Malaysia, southern Thailand, Singapore, but that the festival is very specific to Nanyang, to that area of Southeast Asia where there was that migration from China. While in China, although the Nine Emperor Gods are Taoist deity, well known and from a very long period of time, there is nothing equivalent in terms of the same size and same popularity of the festival. So how did that translation from an element of Chinese culture history took place to give birth to that festival in Southeast Asia? So that's the kind of thing which I've been trying to understand. There is a series of legends that can give maybe a good explanation on how all this happened. It starts with a legend taking place in the Han Dynasty, where there is a very bad Taoist magician who's creating problems in the kingdom, and the emperor invites him to come to the court, asking him to ward off some evil spirit in the palace. In fact, there are no evil spirit, but he has hidden 9 scholar musicians behind the curtain who are playing some very eerie and strange music. In fact, the magician very quickly sees through the whole display. He gets the curtain to drop down, discovering the 9 musicians. He turns his magic weapon into a sword, and he beheads the 9 scholar musicians. The emperor is very afraid of the spirit of the 9 musicians to roam around the palace. He puts the 9 heads into a jar, sealed with a talisman, and he puts the jar into the sea. A little later, he starts having dreams in which the 9 scholar musicians are coming to him and asking him to be deified in order to go to heaven, which he does because he really wants peace to come back into the palace and into his dreams. So that's the story that takes place in the Han Dynasty. What's interesting is that, and this is really restricted to China, what's interesting is that apparently the Nan Dian, the Nine Emperor Gods Temple in Hampang, takes that story from the Han Dynasty and bring it to Southeast Asia. The story of the origin of the nine emperor gods in Ampang is that at some point on the beach in Songkhla, that urn with the 9 heads arrived to the shore. The fisherman opens the urns and the 9 heads rise to the sky. A little later, he himself has some dreams into the 9 brothers in the urns come to him and tell him that a big storm is going to come and hit the coast in Songkhla, and that if he puts a flag with the Tio Wang Ye characters on top of the mast of his boat, he will then be safe. He spreads the message around to his friends in the port, but none of them believes him. But eventually, a few days later, a big storm arrives and his boat is the only one to be safe out of the storm. So that begins that whole story of the 9 emperor gods as being benevolent deity that coming to protect people. There is another story in Penang that gives an explanation on the origin of the use of an incense urn to represent the gods during the festival. That story in Ampang is actually related to the Ming dynasty. It still starts in China to come to Southeast Asia. The origin in Penang, the story of the origin in Penang is that the last emperor of the Ming dynasty is fleeing China with 9 brothers. And they are guided by the 9 stars of the Northern Dipper. They are guided all the way to the beach in Songkhla again. So it would seem that indeed Songkhla could be a place where that cult of the 9 emperor gods in Southeast Asia started. In Songkhla, once the boat with the last Ming emperor and the 9 brothers arrive, all of them disappear. But eventually, a few days later, the fisherman on the beach in Songkhla sees 9 incense urns floating on the sea and arriving to the beach. And the people take it as a sign that the 9 brothers wishes to be worshipped as the 9 emperor gods. So that's the story that really brings all that tradition of 9 brothers from China to Southeast Asia. There is one last story which I've come across, which was collected by another ethnologist in Kuantan. And that story has nothing to do with China as such. It all really starts in Southeast Asia. And this is where we come to those characters of the 9 brothers who are some sort of Robin Hood of the sea, stealing from the rich to help the poor. Those brothers are really popular among the population around, and this is really taking place in Kuantan. It's no longer in Songkhla, okay? The 9 brothers are really popular with the population around, so much so that the authorities are becoming very concerned that they might create more trouble than just stealing from the rich people. So eventually the 9 brothers are arrested, beheaded, their head thrown into the sea, and eventually we have again 9 incense urns arriving from the sea to the shore, and people take it as a sign that the 9 brothers want to be worshipped as benevolent deities. So we have that pattern in which we see a whole story starting in China that slowly, progressively comes to Southeast Asia to finally become a story which is completely autonomous to Southeast Asia. So, following all this, I can say that in fact, no matter what the origin of the 9 emperor god is, all I can say is that it's actually a fantastic festival, a wonderful celebration of life and friendship, a wonderful festival that is really open to everybody. For 9 days there is a wonderful atmosphere in the temple of the ground, in the new temple in Jalan Kayu. It's really open to everybody. There is a kitchen running 24 hours, serving free food to any visitors, and everybody is really welcome to join and celebrate. Thank you.